ago. The reason that I let that crow go is she was not much harmed and is in good shape to join her friends there, and she will tell the story of what just happened to her. See them all, they're all coming up now, and she's joining them now and telling them the horrible story.
Crows learn from each other's misfortunes. When one is killed in a farmer's field, it's not uncommon for them to change entire migratory patterns so that no crows fly over that field for as long as 2 years. There's no doubt about it. Crows talk. Professor John Marsluff knows that crows talk, and that is at the heart of his groundbreaking new study.
See that nest up there?
He wants to find out if crows have the ability to pass information on, not just from one adult to another, but from one generation to the next. To study this, he's going to follow several crows from hatching through their first year to see how they learn. It won't be easy. Less than 50% of crows survive their first year.
Right now, all we know is that there's eggs up there, and it's really a gamble whether those eggs are going to turn into young birds that we are then able to follow when they leave the nest and encounter new things in their environment.
Before the eggs were laid, Marsluff and his team caught and banded adult crows in 5 different test locations around Seattle. They wore a different mask at each location. Now, a handful of crows at each of those test sites, including our crow parents, has learned that one specific mask means danger. What Marsluff wants to find out is whether the parents will pass on their knowledge of the dangerous face to their young. And will the young not just learn to recognize this face, but remember and use this information months from now when their parents aren't around? Surprisingly, this kind of learning in the wild has only been proven with primates.
We're trying to see the fledglings in this nest.
When the team stands in the park without their masks on, the crow's response appears to be quite normal.
So those are just regular caws communicating certainly some excitement, but not a scolding vocalization.
Now, as part of the experiment, he puts on the mask, and it's a whole different story.
We're in a critical part of the study right now because the young are just to the point where they're learning everything that they're going to need to survive for this next year or two. And we want them to learn as part of this process that some people are bad, in particular our face with the mask on it is bad. We have to show that a trait is observed, not directly experienced by an individual, which is what we're doing with these young birds as they see their parents scold a mask. Then we have to see if they have learned from their parent to respond, and do they take that learning and that memory with them as they establish in a new place. That's really a hallmark of intelligence that is seen in very, very few animals. It's the sort of thing that is required for culture to evolve.
If Marsluff is able to show that each generation of crows is capable of building on an earlier generation's knowledge, then he will prove that crows possess a kind of evolutionary advantage shared by only a handful of the world's smartest creatures.
How'd you score that one, Dave?
Beautiful.
They stayed back there swarming on me while we were even waiting.
Awesome,
That was
yeah. It was just like that was beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
While Marsluff and his team are watching the crows, someone else is watching them. The U.S. Department of Defense is funding their study because they think the crow's ability to recognize faces and point out the bad guys might have applications beyond the bird world. For millennia, humans have looked upon crows as highly intelligent creatures, the wise guy, the trickster. Only recently have crows become a focus of major scientific scrutiny around the world. Scientists want to know why crows, who don't have the biggest of all the bird brains, are proving to be the most intelligent of all the birds.
Crows do not have the biggest brains of all birds, parrots do, but it's crows that are by far the top among birds. Whether it's the American crow, the European species, the North American species, every continent of the world has its crow, its member of the genus Corvus, that's at the top of the rankings for that particular area of the world.
The idea that crow intelligence was worth studying came from a tiny French island 700 kilometers off the coast of New Zealand that's home to arguably the smartest crow species in the world. In 1993, scientists from the University of Auckland discovered that New Caledonian crows had an ability long thought to be the domain of humans and great apes: the ability to use tools.
It's a bit of a puzzle. Why is it that it really is just this one species of New Caledonian crow stuck on a relatively small island in the Pacific that uses these really complex tools?
Russell Gray is part of the team that made that first astonishing discovery, and he continues to return to the island to study these remarkable birds. Alex Taylor has spent the last 2 years on the island, living with the crows and conducting experiments.
In terms of biodiversity, it's on the kind of top 10 hotspots for the world. There's just so much stuff here that just doesn't live anywhere else. And especially with the insects and plants, there's tons that's not even been documented. So it's kind of a really special place.
What's truly remarkable is that New Caledonian crows don't just use tools, they make them as well.
It was really amazing to see that they'd go through this long, complex sequences of actions. It wasn't just like one step, like rip off a stick, and it wasn't even 2 steps. It was breaking off at a difficult place the branch below a fork, trimming off the side branches, and then crafting away at the base of the fork to get a really functional hook tool. And that was really amazing to see an animal, knowing there's some food there, putting all this effort into getting its tool just right for the job.